founder and owner, founder, CEO, founder.
Yeah.
Beautiful, so beautiful. God, thank God, for sending you to me. Oh, more than a baddie, but God's beauty. God, thank God for sending you to me. Oh, you're royal, a part of God's kingdom. God, thank God for sending your way. Oh,
What's up, Dayton, Ohio, and surrounding? Welcome back to the hottest podcast in the city, Be Beauty, where we are bold,
Educated,
ambitious,
talented.
Man, let's start this over. Welcome back, y'all, where we are bold, educated, ambitious, unstoppable, talented, and yielded. Where we want you to grow and glow on God's purpose, on purpose, for purpose, all 2023, y'all. How is everybody's week going? I feel like it's been a little minute.
I know, I do too, but it's been good.
It's been good. What about you, Mr. Parker? How your week?
Eventful.
I love it.
You know, yours has been really eventful.
Listen, real eventful. And we are so honored to have you step up on the platform with us on this Friday. And I just think it's just timely. It's God's timing. It's perfect timing with us celebrating Father's Day and then Juneteenth. And it's just so much that's going on. And who better to have than Anthony Parker, the founder of the Extraordinary Men's Mentoring and the Summer Mentoring Camp right here in Dayton, Ohio.
It's the bomb, y'all.
Listen, we are so excited.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Y'all, we got a gym that's definitely in the gym city. And so we're just going to get straight into a conversation. How did this vision of mentoring our young boys and men come about?
Well, I think it was a number of things that actually got to the point to where I feel like this camp needed to happen.
Mhm.
I've coached here in the Dayton area for almost 20 years now.
Okay.
And, over time, I noticed that the young men that I coached just kind of changed.
Mhm.
And, a lot of the young men didn't have some of the things that I felt like were essential to becoming positive young men. So it was a particular incident that that happened about 5 years ago when I was coaching over at West Kelton High School, where one of my players brought his little brother to school, to work out with me, and he essentially, just making a long story short, when I asked him what he wanted to be, he said that he wanted to be an NBA player. So every young person usually says something like that, but when they come across me, I try to give them something a little bit different to think about. So I said, hey, listen, man, shoot for the stars, man. But if that doesn't work out, just tell me something else that you'd like to do.
Right.
So he was like, yeah, he was dribbling the ball. He was like, yeah, I'll be in the NFL. So I laughed. I said, okay, well, you got to figure it out, don't you? I said, okay, if those two things don't work out, just one more thing, tell me one thing that you think you'd be good at that you could do. So he was smiling at first. So and I was running practice. So I was kind of running practice, kind of talking to him. But when I look back after I asked him that question, he had put his head down for a minute. This young man was at the time maybe only 10 years old. So he got quiet for a minute, and he looked up and he said, well, I guess I could sell drugs.
Man.
So, at that point, my focus kind of left practice, and I kind of zoomed into him and just said, no, told him obviously that, that wouldn't be a good idea. And there's so many different things that you could do to be successful as a young Black man. But I said, before I even do that, I said, let me ask you this question. I said, do you have anybody in your life personally that that you can look up to that's doing something positive? And he said, no, sir.
Wow.
So, he had his brother, but his brother wasn't, a few years older than him at the time. So, for the next couple of days, I could not shake that conversation. 2-3 days past practice, and at home I was quiet. I could not shake the fact that one of our young men in our community felt like they didn't have any other option but to make it through a sport or through the streets.
To
So
the streets, no hope.
yeah, so I think that was maybe on like a Tuesday.
Mhm.
So by Friday morning, I woke up in the middle of the night, I should say, and I felt my spirit. I felt God speaking to me and saying, "Hey, listen, I want you to do something about it. I want you to start a summer mentorship camp for African American males."
Mm.
So I woke up and I was just like, "What? No, I'm doing a lot already. A camp? I don't know anything about camp,
Right.
So,
But that's God.
It is. So I molded over for another day or two. And then by Sunday, my wife, she kind of was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I told her, and when I told her, she was just like, "Hey, if you feel that strongly about it, let's do it." So she didn't second guess it. She didn't question it. She was like, "Hey, let's do it." So even at that point, I didn't know how I was going to do it,
Right.
where I was going to do it,
Right.
how it was going to actually manifest. That was just a thought, and a lot of times, there are a lot of thoughts or a lot of things that come to you, but you have no way initially of thinking of how you're going to get that done. So just so happened that I've been coaching in the area for a while, so we had a pretty good rapport with parents and kids in the community. So I reached out to a couple coaches that I work with that also share that same vision of helping young men, and a couple family members, and we just kind of put it out there on social media and just said, "Hey, we're going to start a camp. We're going to start a program with all ran by all males, and to specialize in helping African American young men, ages 5 to 15." So, word spread, and I think that first summer we had 32 young men sign up. Just yeah, so
For our first year.
yeah, and it was, and so, and this is my first time sharing this. So when we started it, we knew we were going to start it. We got hit with the tornado, and the tornado ripped through our whole neighborhood. So, so we knew we were going to have a camp at my house because I didn't really know any place to have it. So, so when the tornado ripped through, I'm like, "Oh man, like I can't run a camp." But I just heard God speak to me again and just like, "Nah, don't worry about it, man. We gonna as long as you got space,
y'all got the space.
You got, you definitely had the space.
And as long as you have a heart, man, and you'll follow my footsteps, man, you'll just take that first step. I'll make it to where it'll be okay." So we pushed forward, and we had those 32 young men. We had them for 9 weeks.
That's the whole summer.
It's the whole summer, yeah.
Okay.
Parents dropped them off at 8:30. We picked them up at 4. And I think at first year, those young men had a combined 45 suspensions. We were able to track them and follow them through that school year after they left the camp, and we reduced it to 0. So
wow,
yeah.
That's such. I think one of the things that is so powerful in having met you, even I remember when Rashonda first pointed you in the direction of Be Beauty, she was like, "Look, we got to figure out who this guy is."
Right.
And we kind of watched you for over a span of 2 years.
Okay.
Just to kind of see, like, is this something serious? Is this something that he's really doing? And I think one of the greatest things is even for us having gone out to visit your campground, is to see the impact of how you are literally meeting every child where they are, whether it's an embrace, a fist bump, or a high five, or you just like, "Hey, so-and-so, what you over there doing?" Your wife, even talking to your daughters, and how your whole family has bought into this vision that God is giving you. And though it started with our Black boys, it is now trickling over into our Black girls.
That's right.
So I think just that, even a phone call conversation, to hear that you're in year 5,
That's right.
With a 95% return rate of
correct.
campers from previous years. And you had 500 people enroll, or campers enrolled this year.
Well, we had 573 apply. We had to cap it at 200. So, and that really speaks to what the community needs right now. And so it's like, man, I wish we could take in more, but we're at the time, we're limited to our space right now. So we had 575 kids, something like that, sign up this summer.
My God. I mean, Man.
What are some of the things that you guys do with the boys?
Okay, well, our camp focuses on three main components. We call it our mind, body, and soul um, components. So we essentially we speak positive affirmations to them. First off, we want to start their day off hearing something good. These young men hear what they can't be, what they can't do, what they can't achieve, on a regular basis. So we want to change that narrative, and we start off with something positive. We teach them what they can do, what is available to them, and how you can overcome. So,
Yeah.
among that, we work through conflict resolution. So we do team building activities to where they focus on reaching their goal, reaching the common goal, amongst others. We work on conflict resolution. That's a big thing in the Black community, especially with our young Black
It
men.
is. Yep.
Understanding how to handle a conflict when it arises,
Mhm.
and to think and not to so much, we call it, feel, because when we think, we make an appropriate decision, and
Right.
we don't make a permanent decision based off a temporary feeling. So,
That's
so
good.
yeah, so we really work on our conflict resolution. Then too, we focus on getting back to some of the things that I like to call old school summer. So there are no cell phones, no tablets,
That's
no
good.
video games. We're outside, weather permitting, every day. We're fishing, we're riding bikes, we're doing agriculture. We one summer we had the young men plant a vegetable or fruit, and we were able to have them bring that in last week. If it was ripe enough to share. Um, we have a week we call Black Wall Street Week, where we have our young men, think about some of the things that they like to become when they get older, and we have them. We don't just have them think about it. We set up a whole camp station to where the young men get to be that person for a week, whether he's a banker or he's a farmer, or
That's what's up.
he's a store owner. So we have a car salesman. So we have little toy cars that they sell their cars. We have a gas station on. We essentially make a whole city, and we have them function and just teach about how economics works. So we have speakers. That one of the whole thoughts behind it was to show our young men as many different positive Black men in as many different professions as possible. So we've had Gerald Parker, who is the head judge here in Montgomery County, come out.
Yep.
We've had bankers. We've had people from the military come out. We've had principals. We've had just about every different type of profession that you can think of. We try to have them come out because we want them to see that it's just not those three things that you can become.
Right.
So
I think, and another thing I like was my story,
oh yeah,
my pen,
Yeah.
my life.
yeah.
And this is what is that an affirmation or a confession that you have the boys?
So yeah, that is our camp motto. So
Okay.
every day we say, "My life, my pen, my story," and what that means is one of the biggest things that our young men experience is they tend to think that they are a product of their environment.
Mhm.
So if I grew up in poverty, if I grew up not having a parent, I can't be successful. I can't overcome. Or if a teacher tells me that I'm not doing well in a particular subject, I'm not smart, I can't do it. So we want to change that narrative. So every morning we say, "My life, my pen, my story," and that's just a mantra that gives them the belief that they can still be successful despite their circumstance. They are the authors of their own story, and it's also a reminder that if I'm with someone and they're doing something wrong, I have a choice as to whether I continue to be with them. You don't want him writing your story,
Right.
You don't want to be in a car with somebody and they're doing the wrong thing. So it's my life, my pen, my story. They're their own authors of their own life. So the quicker we can get our young man to understand that they take control of their own narrative and they're not victims, the faster we can get them to change it. So
Wow. It's powerful. The accountability that comes along with that.
I
Because
love
it's
it.
like you're also teaching them how to be accountable for
Sure.
their actions, their thought processes from a positive standpoint, making sure they're thinking positive thoughts about themselves. And I
Right.
think that's something that
Right.
our Black boys need. What do you feel like is, and we talked about this a little bit, one of the most concerns that mothers have enrolling their boys into camp? And they're like, this is what I need you to help us with.
Well, a lot of our young men, when they first come, it's a new environment. They've never seen anything like it before. Everyone looks like them. It's it's positive male mentors. So it's a fun place at first. So, I would often go back to because every parent that enrolls their kid has a form that they fill out, and it's basically just kind of gives us a little brief synopsis of what they would like for them to gain while they're here. So a lot of times it would say, well, father isn't around, and he becomes self-destructive at times, or is disrespectful to authority or something like that. So so I would jokingly kind of let some parents know, like, hey, I'm not seeing some of these things. And so some parents will say, well, just wait and see. Just wait and see.
Sound like a mama for you.
That's right.
Just wait, you gonna see.
You gonna see. So and sure enough, what we begin to see is around it's a 9-week program, around maybe week 4, week 5, after we've established those relationships with these young men, and they know that, hey, I can go to Mr. Parker, I can go to some of the other young, other mentors. Right around 4 or 5, they would start sabotaging those relationships.
Mm.
They would start doing things to cause conflict.
Mhm.
So it wasn't until I had to go back and do some research, and we start actually pinpointing what was happening. These young men were fearful of mentors, of us leaving their lives, because every man that they cared about or who thought cared about them had left their life. So in essence, it was a defense mechanism that they were sometimes unconsciously clicking right into. Oh shoot, man! If I got a relationship with him, he's not going to hurt me.
Right.
So I'm going to build up this wall to where, I destroy that relationship that I'm building out of fear that I may lose it.
How did y'all deal with that?
It took some just some talking about it. It took some space to give them that platform to talk about how they felt, not be judged. That was another thing, because that was it's like layers. Because then once you found out how they felt, you had to make it a safe enough place for them to express how they felt, because the essence or the measure of a man, and in this day and age, a young Black man, is you better not talk about your issues. You better just bottle them up,
Right.
and suck it up,
Right.
and deal with it until you do something that makes someone say, oh, what's wrong with him? But nobody ever took the time to step back and say, well, what was this young man going through? So we had to create a safe place for them to talk about how they felt. And then too, they just had to continue to see that we were going to be their village, and we didn't have anything to gain from them, but just to see them be positive people in the community, and to help, hopefully one day help make our own area better. So I think over time, they begin to see that, and then, they embrace it. But, that was a real struggle with in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
So what ages are your campers currently?
Currently, the youngest one's 5.
Mhm.
The oldest one is, we go 5 to 15, but he had a birthday. So the oldest one is 16.
Okay.
The youngest is 5 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after 15.
So, okay. So we've got 4 of our young men who started when they were 10 years old, and they graduated the whole program, and then they're back as junior mentors.
Yeah.
And so for us, that's like one of the most rewarding things, to see a young man
dope.
change his life and become someone who just doesn't say, okay, thank you, and go on. They come back to give back to some of the young men themselves as a service, as a measure of gratitude for how we impacted their lives.
Right.
Wow.
So,
Plus,
yeah.
they probably see, because I know they keep in touch with you.
All the
Mhm.
time.
So they probably see the other young ones that come in.
They
They
do.
see themselves and how they used to be.
Yep.
And so because they have had some skills instilled into them, they know how to pour out now.
That's
I
right.
love it.
I
That's
do
right.
too. I think it's such a dope thing,
Thank
because
you.
we don't see that enough.
Sure.
Mm-mm. So currently, what are you in need of?
The biggest thing that we're running into right now is that, we essentially, we need more space. For one. It was so funny how, the whole process happened. We said, okay, to run a camp, you would need a facility or a park or something. But in the beginning, when I was making an excuse to myself as to why I couldn't do it, God just kept saying, nah, you already got that. You
Right.
already have that. So in the beginning, he gave me everything I needed. We use it outside. I went and bought a gazebo just to put on the back to where it made it feel like a park. But now it's getting to the point now where the need in the community is so prevalent. We're running out of space. So We are a nonprofit organization, 501c3. We want to make it a year-round program, and we like to get a facility. And also, too, our biggest obstacle now is that numbers are so high. Our whole objective is to also take them out in the community to show them how to be respectful, show them how to conduct themselves. So we take a multitude of field trips, and that can be problematic when we have so many young men now. So transportation would be something that we definitely could use some help on.
What is piggybacking off of what Rashonda said, what is a way individuals or an individual could donate to you all?
Okay, they could go to em2g.org. That's
Okay.
em2g.org, and then there's a space on the website that it says donate. You can click there. It tells you about our program. You can donate. It's through a nonprofit charitable PayPal account.
Okay.
So yeah, you can go right to the website and make a donation. You can make a one-time donation. You can make a recurring donation. $1, to as much as you want to donate. So
Right. So as far as mentors go, do you need more mentors as well?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. The biggest thing that I've run into with our adult Black men is feeling like no young person is going to listen to them because they may not be exactly where they want to be. What I like to tell these people is that it's your authenticity that makes these young men want to listen to you despite what you've been through.
Right.
So what they think is their weakness is actually a strength that would make them a good mentor. So we're always looking for just positive men who just want to give their time back to help these young men be successful, because nobody who's gotten anywhere in life has done it on their own.
I got another question.
Okay.
I hear you say the men feel like maybe, they don't have anything to offer them because of what they went through. But how many of them have come to you and said, I've actually learned something from these boys?
Just about everybody who ends up coming out, they say that. So, we've got just a phenomenal crew of men who do support and give their time. And oftentimes they'll tell them that. They'll say, you know what, I was coming to make an impact on you guys, but you guys have made an impact and impression on me. So that it happens quite a bit. So, because they're, I don't want to say they're in awe, but they don't see, it's a sight to see when you've got 150, 175 young men all doing homework or summer enrichment work, outside, underneath a tent with, and nobody's talking, everybody's working. Or, if we say, hey, we use the word check, check, it means, hey, stop what you're doing. I'm going to pay attention to the person who's commanding the floor, for them to stop and get in line and be respectful. So I think we've gotten so far away from the things that, in my generation coming up, you automatically gave the adults, you automatically gave your parents and grandparents. Right. We've gotten so far away from that. I think for them to see the things that we are looking to restore is kind of a sight to see. We believe in love through accountability.
Amen. Yes. You can definitely see that. I mean, even when we were out there, the young man that came up and was able to read off that affirmation, I forget his name.
Sure.
Paris.
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say Moses. Yeah. You was trying to get Moses.
Moses, but Moses was busy doing his thing. But yeah, Paris came over. That's right.
Paris came over, and I thought that was so cool. And I think it's even in our conversation, like, talk a little bit about why you started to take your campers younger, because you said initially the vision was for older men.
So
talk about that struggle.
Okay,
a little bit.
So I worked with juvenile courts for a time period once I got out of college, and I would often talk with the young men that were incarcerated, unfortunately, about how they could change their lives and make better choices. Those young men were around the ages of typically, let's just say, 14 to 18. There's not a whole lot you can do once somebody's already locked up. And, when you're in that position, everybody's going to say the right thing because, you kind of
want to get out.
Yeah, you want to get out. You're forced to look at them four walls. So, at that point, I said, it'd be cool to do something where I could help those young men not even get to that point. So, so after that, I began working with, back then it was called Building Bridges Juvenile Courts. They had a group home, which essentially is a halfway house for teens. So through that process, I ended up starting my own group home called the Pilot Program. And I work with young men predominantly from the ages of 16 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of success in changed a lot of lives. But in that process, I saw that sometimes a young man who was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 was a little harder to recorrect.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little bit more rigid in what he felt like was his way or his opportunity to live his life. So, I said, man, I'm never going to run from what God has called me to do, but I can change. I can maneuver, where I do it so that I'm a little bit more successful in the outcome. So, just in working with those young men for so long, I knew that I had to step back. I had to reach back a little bit sooner to catch our young men in that more impressionable stage, those sponge years, to where we could get to them and teach them, hey, listen, you can still accomplish these things. You can still receive love from somebody who has nothing to gain from you, and you can still go out and have a great life. So yeah.
I love it. So how is the camp bridging the gap from camp to home?
Okay.
For the mothers or the families.
So we often talk about things like this week we talked about adding value to someone's life.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the we love Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So we listen to, we call it ET time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After lunch, we always have our ET time, and we kind of just play some some Eric Thomas, and we talk about what he's talking about, and we have them. We break it down because every group, we have 3 groups: the bigs, and middles, and littles.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we have to kind of break it down to where they can understand it at their level. But we have conversations about what that means and how we can apply it. And one of the big things we talked about this week was people who add value to someone's life they'll fight to hold on to you. People who add nothing to you become expendable.
Right.
So
that's real.
So our thing was, okay, hey, tell us, and it doesn't have to be money, because you're a little guy, you may not have any money. But
right.
So our challenge to our young men was, tell us whose life you add value to. And for some, they really had to process it. Mm-hmm. They really had to think about, what do I do to add value? Mm-hmm. So some was able to say, hey, Coach Parker, my mom works 2 jobs. It's just me and her. On days I know she's tired, I make her breakfast.
Aww,
so those are things where, hey, I don't have any money, but I can add value to my mom's life. For some, they saw that they didn't add value but it was okay because you're young, but it was an eye opener.
Right.
It was like, oh man, of course they take it to extremes. Does that mean I'm expendable to my mom? No, that means that. It doesn't.
But
mean
it made
that.
them think.
But it made them think.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I got to do. I want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said that they told their mom that she's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I tell all the time that she's pretty. So just from that aspect of just being aware, first of all, just being aware that their parents are sacrificing for them to be able to come here. What are you doing in return to show you appreciate it? So just hearing that somebody's being more respectful at home from a parent, or that he's getting better grades now, he's being more attentive in school, because it's not just the parents that reach back out, it's the principals that say, hey, Coach Parker, man, listen, this guy's doing a 180, man. So
wow.
So it always makes us feel good.
So let me ask you this, because I drive the school bus.
Okay.
And so kids in 3rd grade, you have them already saying, I had a little boy come and apologize to me the next day when I drove the bus, and his excuse was he didn't get to take his medicine. So do you deal with children that have ADHD, and with you working with them in the capacity that you're working with them in, do you see a difference in the way they act?
Oh, absolutely. So in the beginning, even just that short time frame of 5 years, we noticed that the type of kid that we were getting, it changed drastically. That in the beginning, we had more behavior kids, just kids that were maybe getting in trouble, being disrespectful, just needed guidance. Now it is more therapeutic for a lot of these young men, because they do have a lot of diagnosed, undiagnosed issues. What we do, we still encourage our young men to take control of themselves.
Yes.
So their mantra, we talk about that, is I control my body. My body does not control me.
Mhm.
That's good.
And that's what we teach them. So so they say it. I think even when Lewis interviewed a couple, he was one of the young men that he interviewed. He struggled with that, and he specifically said that. So we just kind of just empower them to say no. Hey, listen, we know that may have an adverse effect on you at times, but if you really want to, you can still control that.
Yeah.
So and they do, because in the end, once they buy in, they don't want me to feel like that they're not trying. So yeah. So there are some young men that unfortunately that it's tough, but there are some young men to where it's manageable, to where if they want to, that they can make that change. So
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to tell the young man. Like, you still have a choice, because you know the difference between right and wrong.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's the medication is not making you
Mm,
do the wrong thing. That is a choice all of your own.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So I was just like, man, I wonder how they are doing with that in the camp, because I mean they're diagnosing the kids with
They
that
are.
like candy.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. And I don't know. I should have pointed out to you guys when you were out there. Right in the middle of the fence line, there's a tree. I don't know if it's where the shade was.
Yeah.
So
I think we walked through it.
We sure did.
So there's a tree right there, and if you notice, the tree the fence separates, and the tree's right in the middle,
Mhm.
and the fence picks back up. So that tree,
That's on the other side.
yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
the tree is very sentimental to us. We call it the word tree,
Mm.
and it's an acronym that we use. And it's wisdom over reckless decisions. And the reason we named it that is that year one, I had a very, very close friend of mine, Brian Flukas. He helped me start this program. He unfortunately is not with us anymore. His favorite line was, he would say "word," like if you were saying,
Word.
"Hey, yeah," you say, "Hey man, Brian, great, go man, take care, word." So that was kind of his thing, and so we dedicated that tree to him. So anytime a young man has got an issue, or he's having a hard time, or he's made a bad decision, we send him to the word tree, and then we just give him a little peace, a little quiet, and his job is to come back and let us know how he could have made a better decision. So we want him to take accountability.
Mhm.
Instead of punishing him or giving him something. We want him to have a natural consequence to where he can process that and understand that it's better to not make that same bad decision again, instead of just getting punished and not understanding what he could have done better. So
So what do you think it is with our young boys? Like, where is the behavior coming from? Is it the
mm,
lack of father,
mm.
the lack of affection? What is it?
Oh boy, that's a complex question. What I would say is probably, and it's just my opinion, I think it's a multitude of things, but essentially it is the belief in oneself that they can be something, for one. It's two, um, being humble enough to understand that I have to learn something from another man. When you don't have a man in the house, or sometimes you do, we still have to humble ourselves to learn to be better men. Like, I'm blessed enough to have my father in my life, and also too, I had both grandfathers. So there were a multitude of things that I learned.
Right.
I use an example. So a lot of young men are fearful of learning because they don't want to feel like that they don't know in the first place. So if granddad said, "Hey man, go get me that 3/8 socket," and I went and got a screwdriver, if my grandfather was, maybe someone different, and he would chastise me for getting the wrong socket. Well, now I don't want to experience that again.
Right.
So I'm gonna act like I know everything.
Right.
I'm gonna act like I already know. So now you have these young men turning into men who act like they know everything, but really
And they
don't know. They don't know because they haven't been taught.
Right.
Their mothers love them, the way that they're going to love them. But as far as becoming men, they are wearing this bravado of having to appear tough and know everything, and then it makes it to where they don't want to listen to
Anybody else.
So it's
anybody else.
their identity, ultimately,
Well,
part of it.
it is, and social media and it makes
Music.
music. It makes it
Yeah.
it makes it very, very, it makes what's not real seem real to
Real.
them. So we were teasing the kid. Man, he thought because of the video LeBron James did a 720 dunk. He thought it was real. It was a commercial. It was a McDonald's commercial. We had to break like, no, that's not real. But if it happens on social media and they're like, it's real. So I would say, in this day and age, their biggest influence is social media. That's why at our camp they turn their phones in or they leave them at home. This is a no social media, no electronic device camp. So so at that point they begin to tune in and listen because otherwise it's I'm just gonna be sitting there. Yeah. So I would say social media is their biggest
battle.
Yeah.
Wow. So how is it with the schools? You said you all follow them throughout. And how many schools are you all currently in or tracking your boys through?
Man. Trotwood schools, Dayton Public Schools, Northmont, West Carrollton, Oakwood.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got a young man from Oakwood, Centerville.
So hold on, people driving to y'all now.
Yeah,
they coming out the way.
Springfield.
Wow.
Springfield. So we've got young men at Beaver Creek. So it's not just a camp that's just for local. Because there are people that live in those areas that can't get that in their area, and as a matter of fact, need that.
And sir.
So we spread out quite a bit over the whole Montgomery County area. So
that's awesome. In the next, let's say, just 3 years, we're not gonna go 5. Where do you foresee the camp going, or where would you like to see the camp go? In which direction?
That's a really good question. I feel like some kind of year-round model I think is needed at this point. And what we're finding out is that it isn't about the most elaborate facility, the most elaborate location. It is simply about the people who are attached to it, willing to do the work of God and really making a difference and building relationships. So
I love it.
So, from that aspect, so my thought process was that I wanted to show the need and take on as much as I could before I asked for help. And now we've gotten to that point. So, hopefully I'm just going to put it out there. Hopefully we can secure a facility in the next 3 years, for boys and girls. Hopefully we can partner with schools just even on a higher level to where we're going in the schools and just kind of helping them out because, they're different in school because there's, I think 93% of all teachers that they see are women or white. They don't see black men in the schools. So just creating something where we're now a presence in the school districts to where those young men, they're on the verge of just needing someone to talk to or making a bad decision can talk to us and see us. So that I see that. I see that for the girl side as well, because our young women need our help too. And I know, she'll have an opportunity to speak about that. So
we'll have Jamaica Park on next week, ladies and gentlemen. We're excited.
That's my boo. That's my boo. So I love it. I couldn't have done it without her. I mean, she's somebody who's been by my side just from the beginning. And I think just even from that aspect, showing them what the boys and the girls, what healthy relationships look like.
Yes.
What love really looks like. And like I said, she's definitely my rib. So
I noticed that you guys had a lot of different men mentors there. I haven't been on the page a lot lately, but even for them to see the relationships between men, the positive relationships between men, that are able to work together and not arguing and that whole machoism thing going on.
Yeah.
So how did you have you noticed that they noticed that?
Yeah. So one of the things that we say every day is his success is not my failure. So and so in our community, that's a lot of times what causes the issues. If I see you doing well or doing something, and I haven't achieved it yet, I'm like a failure. So now if I feel like a failure and you're doing something, I got to do something to you to either take it away or at least knock you down to where you don't have it.
Right.
So, and that unfortunately is a mindset that if we don't change early, that's what carries them out through high school and young adulthood. So
Crab in the barrel.
crab in the barrel mentality. Yep. So
We got to get rid of
we
it.
do. So yeah. So we work on that every day. Just we try to just show them. That to me, I think that's always with boys. I think that's always the biggest thing. Just showing them.
Well, let me ask you this question, because this is something that me and Ashley had talked about
Okay.
yesterday. And I said, it's hard to get a grant.
It is.
It's hard to find people to write grants. So what about if, your family, the guys that help you mentor, what if you guys were to just buy a plot of land and build your center?
Hey, listen, I whatever God has in store. I mean, I think that would be phenomenal. And actually, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that may be something. See how things work.
Yeah. We've been thinking since we left you.
I've never thought about that. That's a great proposal. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely like to look into that and see what something like that would all entail.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a great suggestion.
Because it's like even for us, we're like, how can we pour into this camp? How can we pour in to our community? And one of the things we're seeing is there are so many people doing great things, but there's not enough resources, or the resources are being allocated to wherever they're being allocated to. Yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
But putting together, even through this platform, a kingdom network.
Sure.
Where the network, we kind of work for each other. Like if it's, do you need to raise money? Let's do a fundraiser. Let's figure this out for you all to have the land. And now you all own it.
Sure.
And now you get to determine and decide how things are built and set up for our youth, because that's what's needed, because your heart is there.
Yep. It is.
And not everybody can attach to the thing that God is giving you, because you don't want anybody to try to take away or pull away from that. And that's what we're seeing. I think it goes even back to the crab in the barrel mentality within our community. Like, let's stop pulling each other down and begin to lift up one another. And if that means Anthony Parker has to be the first foundation of a recreational center in our community, so be it. And then he can go on and begin to build them in other communities in Centerville and Springboro and Beaver Creek and Springfield and so forth. Then that's what God wants to do.
Receive that.
Amen. I think I'm excited.
I just have to put it out there though, y'all, because this is something that is excellent for our youth. You don't see a lot of people coming in or in the community that is wanting to pour into the children, and ultimately that's who the enemy is after in the end, is the children. Amen. So I'm asking that, I don't care what the donation is, if it's $25, if it's 25 cents, go to the organization, go to the website and donate, because what can happen is, you get so much, he go on, your son can get in there if you're having problems.
Absolutely.
And your daughter.
And your daughters, yes, because now they've opened up the camp for the daughters. So come on, y'all. Let's give.
It's not even, and even to piggyback off of that, Rashonda, the 10% that God is requiring us to give, it doesn't have to be giving to a church, because this is a church. This is a ministry. This is a program where they are pouring and ministering into the lives of our youth. So it's so important that whatever y'all want to give, open up, give, sow, whatever. Before we get out of here, we got another question. Last question.
Okay.
It is the Be Beauty question. Okay. Our acronyms are bold, educated, ambitious, unstoppable, talented, and yielded.
Okay. My bad.
Where are you with your camp in that regard? And where are you as a man of God and a husband?
Well, I would like to feel like I am unwavering in what's been called on me to do, my morals, my integrity, and my mission. So I think, when I hear bold, I feel like, somebody's willing to stand the ground, who's willing to go right when everyone's going left, because left is easy. I feel, from that perspective, I want to hear job well done one day. So, from that perspective, I feel like all those things apply, because I'm willing, even even if we don't get a donation, it's not going to stop what I'm going to try to do.
Amen.
So from that perspective, I definitely feel like those acronyms, which are phenomenal, by the way.
Amen.
Phenomenal. I think hopefully I feel like it applies, and hopefully it shows in my work. Shows
It does
in my life.
We feel like you got all of the acronyms.
Yep.
You're bold. You're educated. You've been doing this for a while, so you're educated in the children and what it's taken to run this camp. You're unstoppable. You're ambitious.
I appreciate that.
Faith is ambitious.
Yes. Talented.
Definitely appreciate that.
And yielded, because you yielded to what it is that God told you to do.
Absolutely.
And you'll continue to yield to what God is telling you to do.
So before we get out of here, how can people get in contact with you, Mr. Parker?
Well, the easiest way is, once again, go to the Extraordinary Men Mentorship website. It's em2g.org.
Okay.
You can shoot us an email. You can register your young man or daughter. You can learn more about the programs that we have. You can check us out on Facebook, Extraordinary Men Mentorship on Facebook. And or you can even go to my website and go to my page on Facebook. It's under Anthony Parker. So
Okay. And you can reach me on Facebook. I'm Rashonda Young. And on Instagram, I am Miss Divine 34.
And I am your host, Lady A. McGuire, on Instagram, Ashley McGuire on Facebook. Now go be bold, educated, ambitious, unstoppable, talented, and yielded. And we out.
You're beautiful, so beautiful.